Shout out to Leafy. Someone compared me to him favorably like a week or so ago. It's funny because when he did his comeback in 2020, that's when I started watching him. And he was the main reason why I finally decided to go ahead and do my own channel, or make my own channel. The Last of Us 2 was the reason why I wanted to make videos. And Leafy's comeback is what finally decided me to, go ahead and take the plunge, so to speak. I should mention this at the beginning of some of my videos too. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Channel's been growing a bit recently, so I'd like to keep that trend going. So yeah, if you like what I do here, find it interesting at all, please subscribe. Even click on the notification bell. Not sure if I'm shadow banned or not, but click on it anyway just to see. Anyway, let's get it on and get it decided. Thanks.
So what was the spin you wanted to put on it for 2019? Obviously, there was the core, the roots of it, the sort of feminist
the DNA, as I like to call it, yeah.
Right. But
Charlie's Angels doesn't have feminist DNA. That's like how they changed She-Hulk from a happy-go-lucky, man-loving sex symbol in the comics to a miserable, man-hating feminist icon in the MCU.
what was the 2019 spin and what's the Elizabeth Banks spin?
I felt like there was a way to do an action movie from a different lens, from my perspective.
Have you guys ever considered getting a third party to be like the buffer in it? Okay, but you're saying no, for sure not?
Oh, hell no!
I've received this comment so many times. Why don't you guys add a female voice? Why don't you guys add a super, safe space? I've had that commentary so many times. And the reason why it irks me, and why it's always bothered me when I heard these comments, is whenever men have their spaces where they get to talk and speak in an unfiltered manner, there's always a group of people who feel the need to infiltrate a voice from the opposition into male-dominated spaces.
Because I do it infinitely more than you.
And I find it extremely distasteful. Already because when it comes to male-only spaces in the media where people can speak unfiltered, and I'm not necessarily talking about YouTube nowadays, but I'm just talking about television, or even before the podcasting space, just like radio, there weren't too many places where men could speak unfiltered about a lot of their thoughts or their problems. And so when I see things like The View, The Talk, all these other female-dominated spaces,
and then when you're reading what you wrote, it made you go, yeah, okay, oh, all right. Now it's like you added an element to it that really didn't exist before in pop culture. It was really fascinating for me as someone who's watching that whole thing unfurl and watching people get really resonating with people, watching people really getting excited about your work. It's like, oh, he hit some nerve that nobody really hit before.
And it's not a nerve that gets hit very much, and there's so many different aspects to it. And one is just, my classic thing is that there are so few social model novels or stories for men. For women, there are, every season, there's a new Joy Luck Club, a new How to Make an American Quilt, a new Traveling Sisterhood of the Yayaha Pants, whatever.
I thought it was so distasteful that the moment that male-dominated spaces would pop up, I would always see this need to either get rid of these spaces or place a woman on the panel or the group or the duo to balance out the discussion.
It's a very simple for instance. Women do not typically walk into the room and immediately start fighting. We don't walk into rooms and fists up. We need to use strategies in our lives to avoid violence for the most part.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. An action movie made by someone that doesn't like violence. Women love to invade male spaces and then criticize the way things are done.
And so my angels, who are not trained assassins, they're not John Wicks, they're not Jason Bournes, they're not James Bonds. They have a team for a reason. And being underestimated becomes their superpower. The mantra the entire time I was making the movie was that the women fight smarter, not harder. And so it's really interesting when you're putting together an action set piece when you're trying to avoid violence, because you end up using all kinds of different things to get through the scene that you probably don't see all the time in action movies. Because
women have this attitude that they could just go anywhere, even if they're not wanted or invited. And not only should they be welcomed, They should be praised and supported.
Most action movies, like a guy comes in, you know, in Mission Impossible, a guy walks into the bathroom, pushes his sleeves up or takes his jacket up, flexes his thing, and like comes at the camera.
See, and that's the thing I always complain about. How women decide that the popular thing in a male-dominated genre is silly and ridiculous, and that the way they want to do things is so much more thoughtful and better. This is an action movie. Why are you trying to avoid violence? Why are you making fun of your boy Henry Cavill getting squared up, ready to squab? Why are you making fun of that?
You know, we do that too, by the way. But only after we've exhausted some other really interesting shenanigans.
So basically, blue balling the action scenes. Great. Something about this whole, oh, well, we're trying to avoid violence. We don't want to get there right away. We want to do some other shenanigans first. Something about that kind of reminds me of like the WNBA players and how they insist that they shouldn't lower the net. You know, I guess players have suggested, the men have suggested, hey, why don't you lower the net so you girls can dunk? That would be more exciting for people, probably. And they're like, no.
Dude, look at the WNBA. Dude, nobody in the WNBA got COVID. Nobody. They have been playing in front of 300 to 400 people a night for a quarter of a century. Not to mention, it's a male-subsidized league. We gave you a fucking league. None of you showed up. Where are all the feminists? That place should be packed with feminists.
How did you go about getting ready to shoot a movie that would obviously have a lot of complexity in setting up these incredible action scenes?
Yeah, I had a great
Yeah, that's the girl from the Resident Evil Netflix show. And Forspoken. She looking good, I got to admit.
lesson
I stand Kristen Stewart for her artsy-fartsy indie stuff like Personal Shopper.
in making a musical. Because musical numbers and action set pieces.
This is how feminists want men to react when they do stuff like turn She-Hulk into a feminist icon and have her yelling at Bruce about being catcalled and mansplained.
Designed in a very similar way. And the thing about musical numbers, you do everything in prep. So you have to choose the song, you have to, especially in Pitch Perfect, we rearrange everything, we assign parts, we do all the choreography. So for me, working with the stunt coordinator is like working with the choreographer. And the fact of the matter is that making an action set piece is a little bit easier than doing a musical.
Women invade men's spaces, denigrate what we like, then tell us they could do better. This attitude has destroyed comics. It's destroyed Star Wars, the MCU, and video games. They think they can do better. They don't understand why we like this shit.
Think about what has been put out in media throughout history. It's mostly from a cisgendered white male perspective. And so everything that's not that feels a little bit fresher.
Just create your own platforms. Create your own, spots where you get to share your perspective and put it out to the world and see who resonates with it. But so many people want to be able to just leech off of things and be like, why don't you have me on your platform? Why would I fuck up something that's already working really well?
To please you, but we're doing this for us first.
So it feels like pretty good business. My real plea is for men to have enough empathy to go see movies starring women. Because I've been asked to go see movies starring men my entire life, and happily have done so. And I don't know why men don't return the fucking favor.
GG unlucky, IRL no funny. Actually, the fact of the matter is, people aren't asking Elizabeth Banks to go watch their movies. Like, men are not saying, we need your empathy and support to watch Star Wars or Fight Club or read Marvel or DC comics or play video games with us. Now, of course, there are women online who have complained in the past about boyfriends in college who've made them watch Fight Club or a Tarantino film. And the thing is, they've always hated that. They didn't want to share an experience with the men that they were dating or whatever. They were actually offended that men wanted them to watch Fight Club or Kill Bill or Pulp Fiction or something. Never really understood it. Yet women feel like they have some kind of entitlement or right to dictate to men the types of elements that go into video games or comic books or MCU films or TV shows. Like, they weren't invited. They've stuck their nose in it. And it's not like, keep all the women out. And, you're hugging everything like you're protecting it from a fire. But there is, there's just an obvious track record with women that when they get involved with this stuff, it goes to shit. The more popular it becomes, the more normie-minded it becomes, the more women have a control over what is depicted. Like I keep saying, She-Hulk used to be a sex symbol in the comics. Now she's just a miserable feminist icon on the TV show. And it happens like that all the time. The boobs have gotten smaller. The shapes and figures in the comic books, they're shaped like pencils now. None of it is done in support of men. It's done to spite men. And they pretend that they're trying to make it a safer space for women, which, if that was true, that would still be bad, because it's like, this is not a woman's space. But it's not even done for that. It's really just done to destroy a man's space. Like I talk about the man's cave. That's important for men to have a place where they can go to have their own interests without women's involvement. But women can't leave men alone. They fucking hate it. They can't leave men alone just to be in their presence to tell them that they hate them. So, I have no sympathy or empathy with Elizabeth Banks or with women who, on the one hand, tell you, we made Charlie's Angels to be a feminist rejection of the tired portrayal of women as sex objects and I don't know, the male gaze. Now we're going to have exciting female smart women who don't need to show their body parts to get the job done. And you straight white men, you straight cisgendered men, you better put up or shut up. And then, a month later, why are men not watching this movie? GG unlucky, dude. GG unlucky.
And I like good trees. Smoke so much weed you wouldn't believe. And I get more ass than a tour